Hey, here we are here at the Lonestar Sports Show. Getting in where it all is, all things sports, all things Texas. Had a caller texting in trying to get an opportunity to get in and join us today, and he asked to get more than 15 minutes, depending if your first 15 minutes makes any sense or not. But we're here at the Lonestar Sports Show today. Show is brought to you by FastMallSports.com. Fast Mall Sports located in Chicago, Illinois, right there where Ross Comerford, CEO and founder, continues to lead basketball into the 21st century through the vehicle of technology. Interesting weekend of sports. I do want to take a quick recognition. I won't pause, but I will take a recognition and maybe visit on it a little bit. 9/11, where were you that day, Tom?
Teaching class at Plano. I was teaching an economics class, and I just remember somebody said, "Coach, you're never going to believe what the F just happened." And it wasn't like at the beginning of the internet, so you couldn't just pull video right away. There wasn't a million sources of it all. So
No, not at all.
it took a little time for it to kind of break out and bleed out a little bit because it was really early on in the internet era. And I remember just being blown away. It was like a punch you couldn't recover from because you just knew how effed up it was going to be. I mean, this wasn't going to end in a couple hours of cleanup. This was a mess.
I interpret it a little bit different. Like you say, you are very fact that we weren't walking around with smartphones at the time. I was driving down Beltway 8, a toll road type deal in Houston, Texas, and may have been en route to going back to my home there in Pearland, and I was on the South Belt there, and wife called and told me what was going on. It was a really interesting time during that time because in-run, if you were in Houston, in-run didn't mean a lot to people that weren't in Houston, but if you were in Houston, the whole in-run thing was a crazy deal. It was going on at the
in-run
same time.
scandal?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie, by the way, to interrupt you, with the Smartest Men in the Room? It's
Yeah, that's what it all came out.
That's a great movie.
Right. Well, we lived that whole process.
Right, sure.
My wife at the time was actually working at in-run.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it was a crazy, wild animal in our household already. And, I guess I always kind of have a kind of interesting big picture look at what's really going on and don't really get caught up with this tunnel vision of what you're really seeing. But I guess at that time it was just a series of events that were going on. And so, you kind of start to scratch your head. But my interpretation of what took place at the World Trade Center and the bombing and everything that took place at 9/11, I looked at it as a more of it was obviously a terroristic act, but I looked at it as more of an all-out war being declared on the country.
Yeah, it was one of my first thoughts too, because I'd had a couple players in the late '90s that were then first couple years in the military, and I'm saying, "Oh, it's on now. It's a mess. This is going to be a zoo."
I really thought. I mean, all the things that were under my head is this going to be the first time that our own country will be the war zone,
on our turf. That's
turf.
Scary, right? Exactly.
That was what really was going through my head at the time when all this was transpiring and going on. So, and then because it was such a series and we didn't have media, we just sit in front of cable television, and Enron had already done all the things and escorted people out of the building, and so wife was at home watching TV and was kind of taking a look at it, and I come in and I sit down, and you're just looking at things just unfold one after another. And then you hear something's going on at the D.C. deal and what happens there. And so you just really kind of start to look around.
Well, you kind of think, is this like a multi-level Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Boom here, boom there, boom there. Holy crap, what's coming next?
That was the big panic. And as you know, being in Houston, Texas, you're next to the number one refinery, petroleum gas producing place. So it is marked as
it could blow up.
Right. Well,
it's a great target.
It's a great target, right?
Sure.
So in our little community, that was the big deal, and the Coast Guard, everybody was surrounding the military. Planes were flying everywhere to somewhat protect the fact that was going to be bombed next.
Right. Well, and again, you had no idea, and your mind starts to race because you just started kind of assuming the worst.
Well,
it's funny. I met a guy one time, and we talked about Pearl Harbor, and I was very respectful to him because I respect those guys, what happened and everything that they did. I used to spend a lot of time in Hawaii, but I said it's really hard for me to relate because I wasn't alive. And so I think that there's a lot of people who then consequently, by extension, if you weren't around, let's say you were 5 or 6 and you're out of the loop a little bit, you kind of lose track of what 9/11 was.
Yeah, let's talk to the millennials on the set.
It was our Pearl Harbor.
Right.
It was our. It's our Pearl Harbor.
Right. What do y'all recall?
I was in class.
How old were you?
Third grade.
Third grade.
What did the third? What did
What'd your teacher
I
tell
was
you?
8 years old.
What'd your teacher tell you? Like, how did she sugarcoat it because you guys were little kids, or did the principal get on to make an announcement or something?
The principal made the announcement,
Okay.
and we just went home.
Okay.
It was probably
That's funny. I don't recall.
They kept us in school. I think they thought high school kids, didn't get the significance of it politically anyway. All they were going to do is just go, do goofy things teenagers do. So
yeah.
I understand why.
I had no clue. I just thought it was just another incident.
Well, it's funny because I was about that same age when I was about 9 years old. I used to watch. We only had like 3 stations in Chicago, but I watched videotape of the Vietnam, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'd ask my mom, "Mommy, why are they playing war on TV?" Because we used to play war outside in the neighborhood. Like we're the Japanese, you're the Germans, or we didn't really care, but we'd take sides and we'd all hide out, we'd shoot each other and all that shit, right? And my mom was watching it. And how does a lady explain when she knows that this is a bunch of political crap we shouldn't be involved in, and she's got a 9-year-old inquisitive kid, and by the same token, what are they going to tell you?
Yeah.
What are you going to tell Annie? You going to explain to you the politics of what the hell just happened?
Yeah, they said the World Trade Center has been attacked.
Oh my God!
I didn't know what that.
So you were 3rd grade. How old were you?
That was my senior year in high school.
So you got a real good picture of it.
Yeah.
My senior year in high school.
What were your thoughts about it?
It was weird because with that being my senior year, I didn't have a first period.
Mm-hmm.
I had a late arrival, and my late arrival second period was being the counselor's aide.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember coming in, and it's like everybody kind of had this weird like vibe.
Thing in their vibe.
Was it like 10:30 in the morning? Is that roughly the time it happened? Something like that. That's what I
Yeah, it was
remember.
around that
Mid-morning.
time.
Mid-morning.
And I was trying to figure out, like, did something happen to the principal? Did
Right.
one of our students die? Like, what's going on? And, because I hadn't watched the news that morning. I was just doing whatever I was doing.
Well, and even if you watched the initial news, it hadn't happened yet. It kind of all transpired like in that little 9-something window.
So I remember after the period that I had counselor's aid, my next class was French class, and we didn't learn any French. We sat there, we watched what was going on the television, and everybody was just like,
Petrified.
is this real?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys could just, with your generation, you could think this is a video game. We would never think that was, I might think it was.
It wasn't even so much as because video games weren't that progressed.
That's true. That's true. Back then, they were a lot more raw. You're right.
So it was just like, it was surreal, really, and
Just,
you didn't know what to make of it. And I can remember even leaving school that day, like going to pick up a newspaper to try to figure out like more information, like what's really.
why did this happen?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did they release you from school or keep you in?
No, we didn't get released from school.
Yeah, we didn't either.
I mean, I guess if you wanted to leave or whatever the case.
If your parents came and got you or
nobody was
whatever.
going to stop you.
Right, they can always sign you out, right?
Yeah, and I had my own vehicle. I guess I could have just been like, I'm out, but it didn't. It wasn't really registering what was going on.
Can I ask both of you guys a 2-part question? I'm digging this interview thing. Okay, what was your initial reaction, you individually, and then what did you feel like was the reaction of your peers? Second one, don't worry about Ani, because none of the third graders gave a damn at that point. But if you guys,
well, when I realized what happened, I was kind of paranoid. I was 8. I thought, oh man, what if a plane just
drops a bomb?
crashes in my
Now
house.
you know how everyone feels around the
So
world.
I
right?
didn't sleep a whole lot that night because I was like, man, what if a plane?
Yeah, because you were 8 years old, and I probably was 35 years old. And I'm kind of messing up your interviewing process, but because it's kind of interesting. I didn't really plan this. It's nowhere on the run sheet. I got up always early riser, went in, started my cruise, got everybody off to work, and then I was doubling back to get ready to go to something afternoon bid meeting or something like that. And when I was coming back down the freeway, I started to hear, because I listened to I listened to a show just about like this one on 610, a talk sports talk show, and it was interrupted. That was what was going on. So then I pick up the phone, I call to the house, and she tells me, "Oh yeah, this is serious," and she's just sitting there glued. And I walk in, but the one thing that seemed to resonate, it's almost kind of similar to, what made me say all of this is I think it was 8 and I'm 30. I think it's 35. I guess I'm 35, 34, 35. And Annie's 8 years old in the 3rd grade, and I'm 35 years old running a company with 14 employees and 3 trucks. And I'm pretty much thinking the same thing Annie's thinking. where is this thing really going? Now, Ani might have been thinking in a little bit more of a immature, childish way, but it was still the same concept. I'm sitting and looking, and then when the planes start to circulate from all the Air Force bases to protect the ship channel and all that area, they start doing that. It really starts to come to me like it's, okay, we getting ready to go to war, and this is going to be the first time that, wars have always been over there. Now we finna have war here at home.
You know, one of my thoughts when that all happened too was I thought that the World Trade Center was clearly an FU statement. There wasn't a lot of technical advantage to doing that besides just destroying New York. And
they were making a statement.
And crushing their soul. But then I started thinking the next step was, okay, now what are the most vulnerable targets? And I started thinking military bases, airports, energy yards, any place, the power grid. And now we're in trouble because we got to watch out for all that stuff being done digitally. You can shut a power grid down if you got a hacker. So I mean, but honestly, I started thinking. So then I started thinking, I'm going to stay away from those places. I'm just not going to be around them places. I don't need to be. I'm a basketball coach. They ain't going to bomb a high school.
Yeah, I think at that one point it did, and we was coming down and we winding down before we go to break here. It always kind of changed my thoughts about generators because we were going through a lot of hurricanes. It started to change my perspective on the ability to survive for a period of time. This was in Houston, and for a period of time without the support of the general the normal infrastructure of grocery stores and power and light and telephones and all that stuff working.
Yeah, try 48 to 72 hours in New Orleans or Houston in the summertime when it's hot and humid. See how long it all lasts.
I know I've done way more than that. I've done like 7-8 days.
But you know what I'm talking about, though. You get to about 48 points and people start flipping out. Even the good people start ransacking and looting and stuff because it's how we got to eat.
No, I mean, there's a whole story, and we can go all the way down that deal, and we're going to come back to sports. We got us right here on the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. All things sports, all things Texas. That particular segment was brought to you by Hardham Hotels. Hardham Hotels located in Houston, Texas. Go take a look and see how you can put your money where you sleep. We come back, we're going to dive in on some things that went on in sports this past weekend in Texas and outside of Texas and how they may have tied to Texas. Got some congratulations to some people. We said there was going to be no basketball, but basketball did sneak in and find its way into the process. Back in 180 seconds with more on Lone Star Sports Show. I ain't blaming it on the coach.
No, I'm just checking.
No,
He's the one who plays him.
he plays him, but he wasn't playing. Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Yeah, it is Sean McDermott.
Won't be for long.
Right here in Oak Cliff, Texas. All Things Sports, All Things Texas Day show is brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. You can get us on Facebook Live. You can also get us on our YouTube channel of the Lone Star Sports Network, where you can go back and take a look at all the shows. Hopefully you search. Both places, we ask that you subscribe on the YouTube network, and we ask that you share on the Facebook Live connection.
Like the page.
Like the page,
Like
okay.
the page.
Like the page. I thought, no, hit shares too now.
Share, yeah, we need share.
We need share.
You're right.
They try to take advantage. They want to think they're going by, man.
They need to do both.
They need to do both.
Yeah, they need to like.
I like share better than like. Yeah. Share.
They get notifications. They like the page.
Yeah, no, I like them to share it. Y'all share the page, and then if y'all get time, then y'all like the page. But I like for you to share it more than I like for you to like it. But you might not like everything I say.
Either way, go to it.
But it still will be entertaining. We put Ticking Tom.
No, I said either way, like it, share it. Just make sure you go to the page, right?
That's a good point. And push a button.
Like it, don't like it, just show up.
Push a button, not delete. But no, right here, it got a little raunchy. I thought that kind of reminded me of summer basketball this weekend up in Flushing Meadows in the women's final of the U.S. Open, as the young lady that I was extremely proud of.
Oh, she's special.
Naomi.
She's really a special girl. I watched a couple interviews.
Right. She did a tremendous job, and I want to say this. I'm a big Serena Williams fan. The Williams sisters, her father, because I kind of lived a little bit of that with Lori McNeil and Zena Garrison and Walter Berry and all Ned Armstrong, when all they were doing during that window of the '80s, and for them to kind of branch out of that and come out of that situation and see another generation like this. So I am partial to it. So I'm going to say this. Serena was wrong, and she had a bad day. And I'm not having a bad day of playing tennis, but sometimes we have bad days, and in the midst of a bad day, our reactionary nature of how we go about dealing with things is probably not the best.
Well, you're going to laugh when I say this, but I literally saw myself in that moment. Not a black woman in a tutu, but the way that she let her stuff escalate. She let her anger escalate to make her to a kind of an irrational point.
It must have been that black woman in a tutu thing.
That's a scary thought. Me in a tutu, huh? I'm kind of cute at dress.
That caused me to sneeze. I got allergic reaction. Like, oh.
But seriously,
I love black women.
I'm married to one. I love them too.
You do, yeah.
So
one thing we got in common.
Yeah, all right. Oh, we got more than that. Come on now.
We like basketball. We old. And we like black
and
women.
golf.
Yeah.
But my point though is that
we on a roll.
As it escalated though, she couldn't get it under control, and I always felt like I'm 95% capable of getting it, like not letting the tidal wave blow me away, and she let it blow away. And
trust
she looked
me,
wrong.
I have seen Coach Inman's tidal wave blow away.
Oh no, there's times that
it blows away too.
Straight don't give a damn. I don't give a shit what you think about me. You're not. I don't care what a ref thinks about me. I never did.
He told on himself. I didn't say anything about referee.
We ain't here to be friends. I don't give a damn about you.
He let it all out the bag. Let it go, Tom.
No, my point. Okay, but my point was the way I dealt with the refs, which at times in retrospect I would be a little embarrassed of, a little ashamed of, and I always try to do the one thing I'm really proud of Serena for doing was she went down and hugged that girl, and I'm sure she said something like, "I'm really sorry for all this bullshit that happened," or however she probably phrased it.
It wasn't personal.
Yeah, it wasn't personal. And then I felt, leave it to New York's fans. Just leave it to the assholes who live in New York City to boo the little girl because Serena got beat. Anywhere else in that country, but New York City, they would have just politely clapped.
Yeah.
Only in New York City will they pull that crap, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But
they should be ashamed.
But New York has no shame, so don't bother shaming them.
Yeah,
you can't shame New Yorkers because they're obnoxious and arrogant and condescending.
And they can't even spell the word shame.
Well, they can't spell anything. One of my best friends worked with us the year we won state, and he used to go out and drink a vodka and tonic. And I said, "You got to be the most uneducated guy I know. You don't say the R's that are there, then you add R's to words that aren't there, and you sound like a guy who quit school early." And he said, "No, I was a really awesome student." I said, "Yeah, you sound like it. You sound like Vito the cab driver to me, though."
I got some friends. Gary Charles, you're still my guy, no matter how much Tom is bashing New York. There's some good people in New York. But,
Rob Wright's from New York. I don't hate everyone in New York, but there is a. Yeah, they should have been ashamed of how they treated that girl. They should have had enough class to sit there and say, "Didn't like what Serena happened, but she did a great job."
She was probably the sweetest young lady to ever win the U.S. Open.
Hey, you know,
on one
Kornheiser
side.
said that really brought a point to mind that I really appreciated, but I never think about because I don't really watch tennis. Okay, but she said the coolest thing, or he said the coolest thing about her was that she just smiled and had fun. Like they asked her when you got to that point. Oh, she had in the semifinal, she had 13 different break points, and she held all 13 points.
Correct.
And they asked her, they said, "How'd you dig in that hard? How'd you do?" She goes, "Man, I just wanted to play Serena."
She was excited about that.
Exactly, because it's like when we played Kingwood. I thought of that. We're playing this defending state champ. If we win, cool. If we don't win, well, shit. They didn't. Nobody else beat them either. Yeah. And so she's really, really excited. And I thought that was really cool. And then the other thing is, you know, she's mixed. She doesn't even speak very good Japanese. They said when she went home, she speaks in choppy Japanese because I did the homework on her. Her dad's Haitian, Haitian, and
Haitian,
mixed Haitian, and mom is Japanese, which makes her a little bit of an outcast. In Japan, they're pretty close-minded, but it's really cool because they love her there. And she has a really infectious personality. The last thing that Kornheiser said,
because she's genuine.
Yeah, exactly. When he said in a sport dominated by divas, and he says, "I love Serena, but she acted like a damn diva." And in a sport perpetuated or populated with divas, it's just really refreshing to see a little girl who just likes to hit the ball across the net and is really, really good at it. Yeah. Really good.
And it was, and you know, in defense of Serena, and I shouldn't say in defense, in explanation of Serena, she had a bad day.
We've all had
she was wrong. That still does not make her, you know, a legacy in the event. And I don't think she embarrassed the sport. No. She just had a bad day. I don't think she embarrassed the U.S. Open committee. They shouldn't feel any kind of crazy way. She had a bad day because, and then for people to come out and it always has to show its ugly head, to start calling her a goon and start calling her a thug and go in this direction. And I don't ever recall, as much as John McEnroe lived by that type of behavior.
They only called him a brat. That was the word they always used with him. A petulant little brat.
I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go there. Why is it that this white guy, a young man at the time, gets called a spoiled brat, and a young lady, a black young lady, African-American young lady, gets called a goon and a thug? When she acts one time like that, he makes this a practice of acting like that.
Right. Well, if you really, one of the things, this is kind of off the topic a little bit, but I've always said that you need to devise a psychological test for police officers to figure out whether they're scared of black people. I can say it. I'm a white guy. You know, a lot of white people are scared of black people, and you guys all know it. You can tell the ones that are scared. You know the ones who don't give a damn. I don't give a damn, and it shows. And the ones who do give a damn, that shows too. And so I just think that you know.
What is that fear about?
It's. I don't know.
Is it a physical intimidation, or is it a...
Well, I think a little bit of it's because that's part of it. See, there's your excuse. That big, angry black woman, she's strong. That's what angry black... Well, she's a millionaire who doesn't need to be angry. She's just pissed off right now.
Right, yeah, exactly.
You know, she's just pissed off, and she'll get over it if you'll give her a chance to get over it.
And I mean, she has a right to be upset. Even if she's wrong.
Well, you know what I always ask people, and I've asked myself at times, and I asked my coaches when I was still coaching, was if you looked at any snapshot of me at any point in time, let's say,
here we go again, y'all.
No, but let's go all four of us. If every one of us had the snapshot of us acting the best at any point in time, what would people say about us? They'd say great things about us. But if you took your worst moment, what would they say? Probably not good things. Right. So I always ask, try to make your evaluation of someone a video, not a snapshot.
A little bit more of a spectrum.
And that was a snapshot.
Yeah,
that was a snapshot.
That was
in a long documentary called "I'm Really Awesome and You Need to Get Off My Ass."
Yeah, right. And that's the whole deal. But I guess the biggest thing that comes out of it is just really take a look at how we respond to things. She was wrong, and this is where you were wrong again, Serena. The Carlos, I think it was Carlos Ramos.
Was that the judge?
Judge, right. Okay. She came across and thought it was a sexist way that she was being treated and handled. Well, first of all, there are two women playing.
Yeah, I thought that initially made it look really stupid.
That made it look stupid. Well, this is what makes it even look, and I shouldn't say stupid, but unsubstantiated is a better way of putting it. Not only did it make it look that way, then he also has a notorious reputation for being an ass with all the guys.
Right.
And at the end of the day, he's really just an ass,
So that doesn't make him sexist. It makes him an ass.
Yeah,
consistent ass, right? Exactly.
A consistent ass at that. Right.
Yeah, that was my first reaction. And then she walked it back a little and said, well, he wouldn't do that with a man, which, of course, you just refudiated.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's my point.
And at the end of the day, look, she probably saw the wave coming because that little girl was coming.
Well, and that's what I thought it was. I let y'all in a secret. Whenever I start whooping Tom's ass on the golf course, he always starts talking politics. That's gamesmanship.
Charge him up a little bit, jingle some change.
Right. That's gamesmanship. And it's deceptive. I remember, where were we? Oh, it was Loopy and Boo Man and myself. We were sitting in a restaurant I've never been in before, too. It's a chain. I can't call the name of it right now. But anyway, sitting there, we were watching it, and he said, boy, this is getting serious. Boy, she's got Serena on the ropes. And so when she started to do that, I turned and told Loopy, I said, oh, that's just a little gamesmanship. She's just trying to rattle her and get off a game and see if she can get the momentum to change. So it's distraction.
Challenging her ability to focus through it.
Exactly. Non-sports people would call it, distracting a person to derail their focus and attention, like you're saying, or their concentration level, and then make them get a break, and I can get some momentum and get this thing turned back the other way.
Right. It's a by any means necessary approach to athletics.
Right.
If I can't beat you physically, I'll F with your head.
You know when somebody's tearing your ass up.
Right.
And you know when they're in a zone. And the only thing, we used to do a thing, I don't know if y'all did it in Chicago, we used to, you would shoot the basketball, and you keep on throwing it to a guy, he just keep on ripping it over and over again. So then you would roll the ball, or we call it untracking him.
Yeah, I did free throw shooting competitions. Yeah, I'd roll it, or I'd make you step off your line.
Step out of your
Yeah, because you want to hold your spot because that's that hot spot.
Because that track, you're tracked in, you're locked in a zone.
Yeah, big time games
there. It's the same concept that goes along. So I thought that was a little bit of that going on.
Right.
And then she smashes the racket. I said, okay, we went a little bit past that. We just passed without collecting $200.
Well, she's still a great player, especially traditionally.
Yeah, she's a great player.
But she just had a baby. Most women who had a baby don't even take a walk to the damn park, much less play the U.S. Open finals.
And all due respect, I hope, ladies, I'm not saying this in the wrong way, but I mean, there's a lot of hormonal things that take place.
No, exactly. Postpartum depression, separation anxiety from being away from your kid because your kid's sitting back at the hotel room.
All of those things. How about that, Tommy?
Look at me actually knowing that stuff, not having kids.
2 points now. Yeah, that's the whole deal. I never even thought, and I hope, ladies, I hope that's not offensive for me to say that, but I'm trying to be considerate of the fact that these are things that women go through, and having 4 biological children of my own and being around the process, it ain't always peaches and cream.
Well, in fact, factor in the
fact
that her husband basically has to take care of the kid as much as he possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
They're traveling all over the world. They're always a media spectacle. So I mean, yeah, you're staying in a 5-star hotel and eating a nice meal, but you feel like a zoo animal where people want to knock on the cage and see if you'll look up and wave at them.
It's a crazy deal, and it still does not take away from the fact. I don't care where you are. That whole postpartum thing and the stress and
it's real.
Crying while you don't realize why you're crying. She's human. She's a human. And she's a very attractive, intelligent black woman that I'm extremely proud of. And, Serena, we forgive you and we continue to support you right here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network.
She even gets one more mulligan from me. She can do it one more time and I'll still back her.
Yeah, and it can happen. I mean, it's just the whole thing. Everybody gets it.
Watch the video of her life. Don't watch that snapshot. That's not fair.
Well, here we are at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. We're going to move on and keep this thing going in a direction. We got some more interesting things to do. We're in the middle of football season and everything that's going on in this process, some big wins and everything. So we come back, we're going to talk about that. 120 seconds of more Lone Star Sports Show. This particular segment was brought to you by the product of Fast Recruit at Fast Small Sports. Go take a look at fastsmallsports.com and take a look at Fast Recruit and see what they do in one of their products and the direction they're going in leading basketball into the 21st century through the vehicle of technology.
wear the damn dress. There we go.
Go,
Odell, stop wearing that dress.
We live right here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. I have to rein back in. We're going to charge an extra. We'll let y'all get in on the intermission on the commercials.
I think every before show we should let me drink beer. Come on, we'll do hey, how about a beer sponsorship? If we could get a beer sponsorship, could we do that? Rain Uncle Tom in. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
It got to be some kind of way. No, go ahead. Ticking time, Tom. Have at it. Everybody out there loves it. So we don't want to muzzle you. We want to let you go.
Our man,
if they like it, I love it.
Hey, good for us.
Well, it was about ratings.
good for us. All right. Woo.
But yeah, we were talking about something there at the intermission, and I happen to agree with Tom's angle to much of them given and much is expected, but I also come back around the lady life side of it is that when African Americans that are given much and much is being expected, and when they don't feel like giving, then they're an asshole or they're a jerk or they're not. They should be appreciative of what they have, and then when you turn back around and you get a Anglo star. Well, then he's just not in a good mood. Hey, he has a right to feel that way.
You know, it's a better comparison, actually, than LeBron. If you compared how people reacted to Cam Newton, and Cam was an ass when he just walked out, but Tom Brady walks out. Tom Brady hangs up Tom Brady hung up the other day on a call-in talk show that he gets paid to do. That's different than like if you agreed to do it. And they blindside you with a bunch of questions you find unfair. But I mean, no, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things where. As long as everyone's not willing to say that every white person feels this way, just like I wouldn't say every black person is or feels that way, there are a lot of black people who, I mean, what was the initial reason they wouldn't let a black man be educated? The only thing more dangerous than a black man is a smart black man. Well, now you got a smart black man with money, and a smart black man with money who's building schools, and a smart black man with money who's building schools and speaking his mind, and not kissing the president's ass, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm down with it. I'm Irish. We're mutts, and we get off on the rebellion side of it. I just like the fact that people, they have to listen to them. You don't have a choice. You can act like they're out of line, but you still got to listen to them. Because they're a player and they're at the table, and they ain't going away.
They're a player and they're at the table. But is there any true progress in the Colin Kaepernick saga?
Well, no. You know the best progress? I own a couple hundred shares of Nike stock. It's up about 25%. He's making a killing. They did 3.1% increase in online sales the day of the first ad. That Thursday night game on Friday morning, did 3.1%. I actually study this stuff because I really get into investing. Yeah. And not only do I get a kick out of making money off it, I get a kick out of the fact that you saw Trump's lame ass tweet about, do they realize what they're doing? Yeah, they're making a mockery of you and these tight ass white people's asses, and we just sold a whole bunch of jerseys. What's the hashtag? You guys remember? It's
all the people that burn their stuff.
Is it all in with cap or something? There's a thing they sold a line of jerseys. I don't know, maybe you guys could do that research.
Yeah, I ain't even caught up with that one yet.
The Nike did a run of jerseys where it's hashtag something cap, KAEP, and they said they sold all of them out. Just like I told you guys, who's more rebellious than a kid who's still in high school? They'll find a way to buy that jersey, just like they'll find a way to buy them Jordans.
You're exactly right. And I thought that on Thursday when all this started to come to a head and get where it was.
Oh, it makes me happy. I like a little bit of social disorder. That's what I was saying about the Irish thing. There's something to be said for shuffle on the deck.
So so you throw that out there, Tom, and one thing I do is you spend a lot of time, and it's a good thing about being retired and where you are right now. You can gather a lot of information. Right. We might have to get you a new title. We're gonna get you a
researcher,
right? Because you watch a lot of stuff. Let me ask you a question. When is a protest? Now I'll ask a lady like this because she's a real social activist. Type role or lane that she stays in too. When is a protest actually successful? I don't have my opinion about it too.
Well, it depends on my first reaction. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. My first reaction would be it depends how you define success. And what I would say is ultimately long-term success is it creates social change. That's the ultimate long-term success. The short-term success is F you, money always wins. So let's go back to it's the economy, stupid. It's always the economy. And so at the end of the day, I think they've already won the short-term war or short-term battle, and I think they're clear to win the long-term war because
define
one thing
that
is
a little bit. I agree to a certain extent, but I think our listeners might want to know how would you say at this stage of it, and this is the craziest.
You're talking about how did you define success for Nike?
Okay. Well,
or for the whole
protest in general.
Okay, well,
we're talking about protests in general. Or we're talking about. We may have lost our way here a little bit.
I'm going to make sure I'm on the right track. Which way do you want me to go?
Well, I initially asked when along on the topic of the whole Colin Kaepernick saga and everything that we've gotten to, and what are we, Lady Life? Probably 20 months into this, when I made a statement 20 months ago that this thing was going to go a long time, and this was a whole lot bigger than what we were giving it credit for.
Right.
Well, here we are 20 months down the line. I just like to evaluate this thing every month or two or so and just kind of really look at it, especially when we have these various victories or these turns or these marks that show up that demonstrate the fact that this thing is still dynamic and active. It hasn't died. Will we all agree on that?
No,
this has not died.
No, not at all.
Okay.
And what I think is successful is that
it's not stagnant either.
What I felt like Nike was the first person to stop cowering in the corner as Trump tried to make a punching bag out of everybody, because it's we don't need to keep talking about the narrative issue because it got co-opted a long time ago, and that's not going to change. We can bitch about that all we want, but
no, but as long as there's nothing wrong with something being hijacked or done, as long as it's progress toward the purpose of what you're trying to achieve.
Well,
and what I loved about this, hold on a second, Tom. What I loved about this was this situation was, for a long time there was a lie being sold, and I'll be interested to see if Lady agrees with me here, especially with the NFL. Well, no large corporate successful entities are going to touch Colin Kaepernick, because touching him is like a corporate suicide to be associated with him. Wasn't that pretty much what the owner said with the NFL? And we can't do this, and we're not going to go along with this, and we're not going to embrace any of this, because if we do this, all our ratings go down, and nobody ever watch another football game, and the NFL will go bankrupt. But that's pretty much what they try to tell us. Now, a Fortune 500 large multi-billion-dollar corporation like Nike just dispel that myth. Yes or no? Am I right or wrong?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and that was one of the things that I just had a problem with, because it really sold America out. Made me kind of scratch my head. Are we in that bad a shape in America where if some crazy bullshit is going on and we can't say anything about it because the controlling entities and corporations and all the money people cannot do anything about what's right or what's wrong, because their business will go bankrupt if they say something.
That's why
I love
the
country we live in?
Right now, yeah, the Trump country, which we'll get out of. But
no,
I like that the bully got bullied. That's where my motivation
is. I disagree. The whole thing has been, I guess what I'm trying to illuminate the show here is the fact that it was a lie. It was a lie when they said we can't support Colin Kaepernick. We can't support the support because our stock will go down and the NFL will go to hell in a handbasket.
Well, now they look stupid. They look stupid because Nike turned back around and has benefited from it. Here's a good example. Allen Iverson got a little toxic toward the end of his career, right? He started doing a lot of stupid stuff and getting arrested, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And he kept, the people were always saying, well, no mainstream company is going to hire him. Well, he didn't need a mainstream company. Who was it? Was it Reebok and somebody else who hired him? They're like the outlaw companies. Mm-hmm. There's always a market for somebody, right? And at the end of the day.
I don't even consider Nike an outlaw company.
No, not at all. But what I loved about this was they bullied the bully.
Yeah,
because they got the Nike, they got the uniform contract for the next 10 years,
8 years, or 8
years. But I mean, they're stuck with Nike whether they like it or not. Well, so Nike says you're not going to back me in the corner, and you're not going to tell us how to feel,
right?
How to vote.
And I mean, and that was the interesting thing, and I thought that was a breath of fresh air. I mean, I know y'all love it that your stock has gone up.
No, I love it more that they pushed back. I really do.
Well,
I mean,
I think
I don't mind the money, but
I love it because of what it dispelled or what it uncovered. That America is not as big of a conservative, white, racist, suppressing country as you want to make it out to be. And if we follow along with this and go along with this, then that means that the NFL will get shut down.
But there's a king has no clothes aspect to this. If you're sitting at a country club in Highland Park and you can't even see a black person, if you put in microvision, night vision, you can't see a black person. You're not going to see a black person all day. You might see someone who's doing some sort of relatively menial task, but you're probably not going to see any peers who are black all day long. Mm-hmm. So it's really easy to think, well, then black people have no power. No, but they have, the power is with your money.
Yeah,
I told my kids in economics, I asked them, that's the question, first day of class, I'll say, how many of you guys vote? And once in a while, you'll have a hand or two go up because they might be 18 or 19. But almost no one, I say, yes, you do. You vote every day. You vote with your billfold. Mm-hmm. Well, I said, who bought something? What'd you pay for it? You voted yes. Mm-hmm. Was there something that I said, would you have paid twice as much? Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Then you voted no. Mm-hmm. But you vote every day, and that's how you vote. So the point about the people sitting in their little country club is you don't think Nike can sell can sell rebellion? You don't think Nike can sell stick it in your ear?
Well,
and they're selling it right now as we talk.
And that goes back to my point is that was the biggest thing, the most refreshing thing about this deal. And we're going to be on this Kaepernick thing a little bit. We're going to take a look and see, this whole collusion thing and, is it a deal? We're going to talk about some of the performances that took place in the NFL that allude to that there may be substantial evidence that will show or dispel that there is reality about, something. They do have an ability to do that. Right before we go to break here, I think we got a caller coming. I think I recognize it, that Tennessee number. Hey, you got the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. Who do we have here? I think I know who it is.
It's Barksy.
Barksy, Casey Barksdale.
Barksy,
boy, I tell you what, I'm going to sit back and let y'all go at it, man. You got to hold on for the break. I don't know if you know where things are, how we going to catch you up. This is going to be really, really interesting. Matter of fact, I knew I went down there and got me a Slurpee with a big spoon here for a reason. I don't even have to do anything. I got a man on the phone that's a basketball coach. Both of y'all are retired basketball coaches.
I had a boy.
Yeah.
Good man.
And we finna let y'all do your thing because Barksy was here when the thing first went down. Well, he's kind of here midways when it first went down. Barksy, we about to go to break right here. We're in about 30 seconds. But right now we are talking about the whole situation with Nike, the NFL, the Colin Kaepernick, the protests, how does it affect the whole deal. I can't do much more than that in 30 seconds. But when we come back, I'm going to open this thing up, and I'm going to let Casey Barksdale and Tom Inman. We finna tip it off, boys. Y'all lock in. Y'all might want to shoot a social media tweet out on this one. Brayton might get ready to go up right now. Casey Barksdale and Tom Inman. Both of y'all pretty damn good basketball coaches too.
Where do you coach, Casey?
Not as good as Snoop.
Not as good as Snoop. Snoopy not here to get Snoopy on the deal.
Where'd you coach at, Coach?
I was at St. Anthony in San Antonio and Arnie Country Day in Florida.
Okay, cool.
Well, hey, we'll be back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show. Y'all take a break and get you a swallow of water, get warmed up and loosen up and get ready to go. When I come back, I'm just going to walk in and tip it off. Let y'all go. Back in 180 seconds. Hey, we getting in here. Like I tell you, the breaks and the intermissions are just off the chain around this camp. We are so excited to have my main man, Casey Barksdale, straight out of the country western state of Tennessee, who's slowly translating himself over to being a Texan. How close do you think you're to being a Texan right now, Casey?
I do have a pair of cowboy boots now.
Yeah, that's a good start.
I think that's a start.
That's a start. That'll get you right in the right direction.
And I drink Dos Equis.
Yep.
Lupe told me if you're going to be in Texas, you got to drink a Dos Equis.
Right.
So I feel pretty much like I am Texas.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that commercial where they show the people who spray down the Texas high school football fields with Dos Equis in the spray thing? It's a beer commercial. It's great,
I
man.
have not seen that one. That's pretty good right there.
Awesome.
That must have happened in San Antonio, Texas or something. That sounds like some San Antonio stuff right there. I don't think the guys in Houston and Dallas gonna spray any beer on the grass. But yeah, we were here and I kind of gave you a little bit of an update and just kind of evaluating where this thing is. I think one of the things that I want to say before I let you two guys kind of get at it a little bit. One of the things that I definitely want to say is that I am so glad because, Barksy, when you were on the show, one of the biggest issues we were talking about was what I always thought was the biggest distraction in the whole process was the protesting mechanism, patriotic or anti-patriotic, or was it an anti-patriotic act or not? And in actuality, it had nothing to do with the reality of why the protest was going on, which I thought was a major distraction. So one of the things that I'd like to congratulate, and I answer my own question, is there any true progress? I remember having Peter Sweatham on one night, and we talked about the distraction nature of the deal. We have gotten past the distraction, and so that's progress. We've gotten past the distraction because nobody's sitting around talking about kneeling and that's not right to the troops. We've gotten past that now.
Well, to be honest with you, I hadn't thought about this until just right now listening to you two talk. But I almost would have. I think last week I predicted that Trump would start tweeting like the asshole that he is as soon as all the football games started up, because that would be his way to distract things off of all the other stuff that's blowing up underneath his feet. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I was really surprised that it didn't happen. He's lost his leverage on this deal because Nike's bigger than the coward owners, and I'm really embarrassed that somebody in the ownership group of the 32 people does not one guy have a backbone? Like nobody has a backbone?
Yeah, and the whole deal of that. So I mean, are you pretty much up to speed of where this thing is right now, Barksy? Or
yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. I am.
Yeah,
I am.
Yeah. Go ahead and take your Tennessee angle. Don't call it a Texas angle. I hear it in your voice already. I know you're good.
No, I think. I mean, I think strides have been made. I think people are definitely more aware of what the true issue was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I still don't believe personally that I've said this all along, that I think if I'm going to choose something to protest, that I need to choose something that doesn't turn off ears when I do protest. That's the only part of it that I think we lost in the beginning that I think we're finally getting past. I think Nike doing what they did was huge to eliminate the part of kneeling for the national anthem. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because Phil Knight, I mean, who's more American than Phil Knight?
Yeah, exactly. Try to paint him as unpatriotic. Try that one.
Yeah. So I do think strides have been made there, 100%.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Barksy, is that it always was about something different. I think I interpreted, understood. I was kind of multitasking a little bit there when you came out, and I apologize for not being as attentive as I should have been. Trying to help Tom out here with his password business going on.
Don't worry about it.
You okay? You'll stay on your data plan. You got a big data plan. Okay, we'll let your big data plan rip and run right there. There you go. You made enough money right there on your stock. He's got his Nike stock up
right
here.
Look at this.
He got it all marked. He made enough money to pay for his data, some extra data to talk about it right now.
Well, I actually think this too, and I can speak on this because I had a fight the last couple of days with my girlfriend, so I can speak on this a little bit in the fact of, the way we're raised by our parents. Every person in the whole United States and the world come from a different raising. Mm-hmm. So things that may have been important to my parents may not have been as important to your parents, or may have been more important to your parents. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So the whole the kneeling process and all that, a lot of that comes from how you were raised and what beliefs your parents put in your head, just like going to church. Some people go to church just because their parents went every Sunday. It just varies on how you were raised. And that's a hard concept for my girlfriend to understand because she thinks anniversaries are important, and I think it's just another day. So, I mean, we're dealing with stuff like that.
On this show.
Oh, you romantic devil, you. Oh, you need to tap the brakes there, Romeo. You better watch it, buddy. You're setting an awful high bar.
Hey, this show does not endorse the thoughts and beliefs of some of our guests.
DNA, if you're watching this, I do not endorse this clown that called in who just said that stupid stuff, huh? I'm just teasing, man.
So there we go. I mean, that's just kind of what we deal with.
Right.
But no, I do think 100% Nike getting involved was the turning point that the movement needed or the cause needed to take off.
Coach, could I make a comment? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, please finish. I didn't realize.
I think Nike was what it needed. I really do.
Well, what I was going to say is I completely agree with your idea that we all grew up in different cultures, environments, and perspectives. But them hijacking the narrative, which is really pandering to your lowest common denominator, because what it's saying is I'm going to take a police brutality issue and I'm going to flip it to make it patriotism. So now all of a sudden the patriotism switch on all the predominantly white people in small little redneck towns. I don't know where you're from, but it's kind of
small little redneck town.
Not the personal.
I appreciate you.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is,
where'd you get this replacement for Snoop? This guy's rude.
No, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm not being. But what I'm saying is, like,
don't worry about it. We grew up in a tent.
I don't think that anybody. And you didn't marry your cousin, thank God, huh? No, but I mean, I just don't think that anybody in a small white town. If the real narrative was black kids getting killed by cops, both white and black cops, then I don't think any of you white people have any problem with that. But the easiest way to manipulate things is to flip the narrative. So now it's playing toward you're not a good American, you're not patriotic, you don't go to church, and then all of a sudden you can paint it into racial terms.
This is a classic right here. Let's pause hit the pause button right quick. Take it to him. Say, I don't think any of you white people have a problem with.
No, but you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to give credit to your upbringing. I'm saying that I don't think that you were raised to think that it's wrong, that it's okay for cops to kill kids. I don't think anybody in any town
absolutely
was,
not.
Right.
But I can tell you this. I was raised. My dad's a diesel word. Was in the union, a mechanic, and I was raised pretty hard nosed. If I did anything when the national anthem was playing, other than put my hand over my heart and stand, like if I burped or moved or whatever, I was getting hit in the back of the head. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of people that were raised like me, whether it be black or white, that were raised in the national anthem is the national anthem. So that being said, I didn't look at it as trying to turn it and take attention from what was happening in the world. I just looked at it as the way my family viewed the national anthem.
Yeah, that was Boxy. I will defend you on that, Boxy. What you were saying based on how you were raised, you weren't embracing what was wrong or what was being protested, and you totally agree that all of the police brutality stuff was totally incorrect. You just thought that utilizing the national anthem as a platform of protest was just. I give you a perfect example, and this is. I'm not sure I really want to go here with my own
Come on.
With my own spiritual beliefs.
Go there.
But I would never, and there's no comparisons. I mean, and God knows my heart. There's no comparisons here. But what I almost hear you saying is the same way that I would never use the God I know as a creator and the Jesus Christ that I know, that I consider that sacred, and that could be never used as a part of a protest. In other words, I'm going to stop praying, or I'm not going to bow my head when my pastor's praying because I'm protesting something that's going on. That's the way I kind of interpret what you're saying, Barksy, there.
That's it. I mean, that's just an important thing the way I was raised.
Right.
But my whole thing was I never disagreed with the protest or what it was.
Mm-hmm. You did.
Or
That's
what
true.
it stood for.
Mm-hmm.
I just said always, let's pick something different, because ultimately, like what is it, Mr. Tom? Is that right, Tom?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was talking about in that white American stuff like that is the minute you kneeled, you might have turned off some of the white America ears who really needed to be the ones that
supporting the
understood.
process.
Oh no, I
recognized
grant you. No,
what was
they
going
shot themselves in the foot in some ways because it was a little bit too vulgar and a little bit too much in your face. But I'm just
That's
saying,
right.
I think sometimes, and you're an educated guy, but there's a lot of people, including my friends at home, who aren't very
I
educated.
cheated my way through college.
Hey man, I just got lucky. I had good genes. I didn't work real hard, you know. But and here's another thing that kind of bothers me too is the idea that if you're a liberal person, you're not a patriotic. That's not mutually exclusive. Because I'm the same way. You know what drove me crazy the last 3 years, Coach? When me coaching high school basketball, was listening to these assholes in the stand talk through the national anthem. I just wanted to turn and say, "Will you please shut the f up?" I want to say that literally, and because I was raised that way. However, I was raised that way liberally. And you might have been raised that way conservatively, but what I don't like, and I'm not accusing you of saying this, please don't take it that way, but the conventional wisdom is that conservative people have more knowledge and wisdom, and they're looking out for our best interest, and in reality, often they're looking out for theirs. And then there's also the narrative that liberal people are, I mean, if you're liberal, that there's something wrong with that, you're not patriotic, and that's not fair. And I'm not accusing, please, not you, but a lot of people can't get two things, they can't get their arms around two things and accept that they're both true. Two things can be true at the same time.
That's right. And I think what Nike has done and what Nike, I think, is going to do with what they're doing is they're starting to educate people.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was blocked at first. You're right.
And that's what's been missed in the whole deal. Guys, we're not going to change this with the 30-something, 40-something, and 50-year-olds.
No, it's the young people that got to make the change.
This is going to change with the 14, 15, 16, even younger than that. So what are we doing spending money on educating youth? And that's my question. And I don't think we're spending enough money or resources or any of that to.
Well, I think it's across the board things. Like everything has a spectrum. We're about to go to break right here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. This particular segment was brought to you by Harlem Hotels, located there in Houston, Texas, the Bayou City. Go take a look at HardhamHotels.com and see how you can put your money where you sleep. Be back in 180 seconds with more. Casey Barksdale, Tom Inman, Lady Life is keeping us where we're supposed to be and when we're supposed to be there, and the Prince, Unnie, and yours truly, Alan Branch. Right back to you in just a minute. Here we are back here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. Today's show is brought to you by Fast Small Sports at fastmallsports.com. Located right there in Chicago, Illinois, the Windy City, where Ross Comerford is CEO and founder of fastmallsports.com. Go take a look and see how they are leading basketball into the 21st century through the vehicle of technology. Once again, intermission may have been better than the show, but a very interesting point was brought up that during 9/11, which was roughly, I guess, would be 17 years ago to the day, did we have the same problems in America that we have now? And we talked about the fact that the social media fuel or expose a lot of our problems. I think that it's probably more exposed than it is fuel. I think we've always had a lot of problems. I mean, you go all the way back to the 20s and the 30s and the early 1900s. Black men were being lynched, but there was no medium of communication. We look at the Emancipation Proclamation in the South. We celebrate Juneteenth in the South because we got the news late.
Yeah,
because it took so long for things to travel now. So now things travel at a higher rate. I think that we had those problems. I can remember in the 70s in West Dallas, right here in Waco, there were a number of just within a couple of months' time, a number of black men with Dallas Police Department bullets in their back. So most of them paralyzed in Parkland Hospital. But there was no social media to talk about it.
So we couldn't get outraged immediately, right?
Right,
exactly.
couldn't get outraged immediately. So now that we have social media, we're being outraged about it. Does that make it a bad thing? Why Boxy warms up his dinner? But you hear the microwave going in the background. Boxy getting the dinner in. but at that time, I think that doesn't. I mean, what does social media say? You know, now we got early detection, so the disease is worse than it was then. The disease is bad, no matter what the means of detection is.
Here's my problem with, I guess, a little bit of social media, right? We know bad happens in the world. We know it happens
all the time
down the road from us every day, right? Mm-hmm. We know what's happening with cops and black kids and black. It's bad, right?
Yeah, no, it is. But we got the man for the hour now. I can go on break. I'm gonna let y'all have it.
but my problem is with social media is that as soon as something happens and it hits the airways, before we as a country get the full story, we instantly become judge, jury, and executioner.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. And the whole thing is Trump has fueled the divisiveness. The social media has amplified and blown it up. Now it's not cool to get along. I think one time on the show, maybe a month ago, we were talking one time, or maybe it was on the phone one time. I think me and Alan were talking about who are the two most successful presidents in the last 100 years of reaching across the aisle and getting the other side to actually make a real freaking compromise. And we agreed that my recollection was Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton, one Republican, one Democrat. But when they were the most successful, wasn't when they were isolating us and playing against each other. It was when they were just reaching across and saying, look, let's do good things for people. But right now, I don't feel like anyone's doing good things for people. I know they're doing good things for people. It's just not people named us. You know. So
you called into the Lone Star Sports Show. Who I have here? Hello.
Am I on?
You are on. We're on, and we lost Boxy. We're gonna get Boxy back. We don't want to put Boxy out the show. How's it going? We got Peter Sweatham from Houston, Texas.
Peter.
That's right. Peter and Tom know each other.
Oh, do we know each other? This is sick and twisted. You got to see me and him at happy hour. That's a happy damn hour. We are the two loosest white men in the history of white men. Trust me.
Hold on. Okay, now we got everybody merged in together there, and there you are. We got Peter Sweatham, Casey Barksdale, and Tom Inman. I'm gonna check out and let y'all do something a little bit and see what's happening. I'm gonna sit back and listen.
I'm intimidated by Peter.
Peter, be nice. Play nice with others. Play well with others.
Really, two things I wanted to say. One, when I was like 7 years old, my grandpa was a Marine in World War II, and it was like a Veterans Day thing, like at the mobile home park. And I was farting around, and he knocked me into the middle of next week. And so I don't want to discredit the point that Barksy was making, or
I think we
paint
all
him
there.
with a broad brush.
You're right.
Question, such a gotcha question. I don't want to put him on the spot. I know Barksy's top, but the question that should be asked, broadly speaking, when someone says that they support the cause for the protest, but not the means of the protest or the nature of the protest,
Okay.
is the question that is, since 1980, is there a black-led protest that a person has supported? Like, did we support the Million Man March?
No.
Did we support the Black Lives Matter movement, where there's no flags and no anthems? And speaking broadly, invariably, the answer is no.
No.
Not talking about Barksy, talking very broadly. And if people are against a common themed cause, regardless of its nature, then at some point it becomes clear that it's the reason for the cause that they disagree with, rather than the specifics of the individual protest. And so I think that's important to consider. And again, I know Barksy.
No, I mean, actually, all four men.
Proud to call him a friend, and so I'm not.
No, we're not jumping on Barksy by any means.
So I just think that's irrelevant. If it really is about the anthem and the flag, then anyone who says that should support the Black Lives Matter movement. And what normally happens when I bring this up is they'll say, no, that's different because of the looting or whatever.
Say that again?
They'll move the goalposts. And
the looting
then
of
I'll
what?
say, what about the Million Man March? Oh, that's different because Omicron doesn't like Jews. And they just keep moving the goalposts continuously. And it eventually becomes pretty clear what's really going on.
That we won't want you guys protesting.
And so, generally speaking, I've met very few white people who, and actually I put myself in the category, because it was anthem related, and because of my grandpa smacking the crap out of me, I felt a certain kind of way when Cap first took a knee. However, I do support the Black Lives Matter movement. I did support the Million Man March. So I guess I would be in the category that I'm proclaiming really common. So I know that those folks exist, but in the conversations I've had, I'm not encountering any white people who say they're against because of the anthem and the flag, then answer the question in the affirmative. Do you support the Black Lives Matter movement? And I just think that's important to consider.
Well, and this is where we were a while back with Casey and I. And I want all our listeners, I mean, all 147, how many of them joined in tonight, to understand that this is what America really needs to take a look at here. You got four men on the show right now, and this is the power that sports has. We are all joined together through the vehicle of basketball. Would that be right, guys?
Wouldn't know each other. In the absence of basketball, I wouldn't know any of you guys.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
And that's the power that sports has, is that you got one black man and three white men sitting here taking their time, their precious minutes of their 24 hours to talk about an issue. That's why I feel like sports has the power and the ability to really change a lot of things. And so go ahead, Baton.
No, here's a real quick story. There were 4 words. My dad's a really educated guy. He's a real jerk, and he's a high school teacher. You wouldn't think he'd be educated because he sounds like a cab driver. But there were 4 words he wouldn't let us use in our house. He wouldn't let us say always. He wouldn't let us say never. He wouldn't let us say always, never, all, and none. Because he doesn't believe in those superlative words. And if we would all take that approach about racial relationships, because it's so easy to take, you take like when we talked about Serena earlier. So now she validates the angry black woman. So now all black women are angry. No, that black woman was angry. Just like all rednecks aren't bad people. I know rednecks married to black girls. I know rednecks who vote liberal Democrat. So and please, Casey, I hope I didn't offend you earlier. Casey, I really hope that, but I really hope I didn't offend you because I didn't mean nothing by that. I'm just kind of loose with my language.
No, not at all.
But to paint in broad strokes is let me just finish real quick. To paint in broad strokes is intellectually lazy.
That's correct. That's exactly
right. That's right.
I agree.
But let me say this.
We got 1 minute before we go to break, and you come back and you can finish. Go ahead, Barks. Okay,
I have no problem. I'm a Christian, proud Christian.
I am too.
You know, like
two of us, Barks.
Like what Peter was talking about, like supporting the Black Lives Movement and stuff, and I completely agree, 100%. But I will say this: for this place, when I say place, I mean Earth. To get to where everybody talks about they're wanting it to be, it can't be a Black Lives Matter. It's got to be everybody's life matter. I don't care if you're Hispanic, Latino. It doesn't matter. Your life matters.
You're right. It does. You're 100% right that race shouldn't justify which life matters. The problem is that the only, and I always had that problem with the whole Black Lives, the interpretation of Black Lives Matter. It was never meant to say that other lives, Puerto Rican lives, white lives, Mexican lives didn't matter. It was the problem is that black lives were being treated as if though they didn't matter.
It was based on disproportionality. Disproportionality is the whole issue.
Let me clear what I was saying by that.
This is
a little bit too. I completely agree. But if we stop right there, if we stop at just black, then we hadn't done our job. We haven't solved the equality problems of the United States if we stop right there. And that's all I was saying by that.
And for the record, other than Native Americans and American black people who can trace their ancestors to slavery, I think everyone else needs to just figure it out because that's the American way. Like, there's never been an immigrant group that we didn't crap on.
Yeah, right.
But what we did to American black people and American Indians was radically different and not comparable. So,
well, the Indians are getting it back with casinos. I lost a man.
And so
you deserve it, pal.
The reason the Black Lives Matter movement exists is because historically and currently, Black lives have mattered so much less.
No,
like 65% of the people who've been exonerated from death row were black, and black people were 13% of the population and 39% of the prison population. So you're talking about just grossly disparate.
That's what I'm talking about, the disproportionality of it, right?
I agree it's not a great plan. Like, if it were Black Lives Matter 2 or Black Lives Matter also, because Black Lives Matter can be misinterpreted as only Black Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter.
Well, that's just an opportunity for a closed-minded person to jump it. You're right, Pete. You're right.
We're getting ready to stick this.
I don't think that was the intent of it. So
we're going to stick this thing on hold.
It's a worthwhile movement.
We're going to get Peter to hit a pause with all that great information that he's spitting right now, as the young people say. But we'll be back in probably about 45 seconds as soon as we take a break. This particular segment was brought to you by the Lonestar JUCO Prep Showcase that will be going on at Drive Nation, where roughly 100 Division I coaches will be in attendance, coming out to look at roughly 14, 15 Division I junior colleges, another group of 16 high school and prep schools coming from about 6 or 7 different states. It's always been a good event. I think this is the 10th or 11th annual one will be going on just to see how technology is going to be involved in the process, and process is progressing. The Lonestar JUCO Prep Showcase. Go take a look out on October the 5th and 6th at Drive Nation. Be back in 45 seconds with more Lonestar Sports Show. everybody's weekend hours all broke down and lined up, and their evening, nighttime, unattached hours all analyzed and looked at. We back here right now. It's not anybody's bedtime, so we back at work here on the Lonestar Sports Show on the Lonestar Sports Network. We got Peter Sweatham from Houston, Texas, Barksdale by way of Nashville, Tennessee, or what town is that you from in Tennessee, Barksdale?
Memphis.
Oh, you're Memphis? Okay. All right.
I love Memphis. That's a great city. I love Memphis, Tennessee.
I know something I like about you. And then got by way of Chicago, Illinois, Tom Inman, who we were totally, fully adopted. When you win a state championship, you get adopted.
All right, I'm in.
Or kick the door in or whatever you want to call it.
I'm a Texan. I'm officially a Texan.
Officially a Texan.
Hey, you seen the tat? I got the state of Texas on my tat.
Is that right?
Yes, I do.
I got to get a tattoo. I've got here lately. I've been wanting to get tatted up. Everybody around me, son, daughters, wife, everybody has a tattoo except for me.
I'm going to have those high-tech young millennials over there take a snapshot of my tattoo and then go ahead and post that because it is badass. And I'm going to give some ups. Hey, this thing's 12 years old. You wait and see. It is. It's like a three-dimensional state of Texas basketball.
Peter
It's
Sweatham,
awesome.
get your man. You know you got the keys to Tom Inman, don't you?
We go way, way back. I'm not serious. These three of my favorite people on earth. That's why I had to call in.
That's when you know somebody's a partner in crime. They just start muttering around. Well, we go along. I've known him for a long time. But back to the point.
Well, I mean, how about this? Is there a better way for a white guy from Chicago to check himself into South Dallas basketball than working for Jim's Pinball? Isn't that right, T.I.? Didn't you work?
No, it's at Sock. It was Southall Cliff.
It worked at Sock, yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely I have a definitely unconventional career path. A BS in finance, a real estate degree, a Series 7's test, left, bartended for 3 years, had a blast. Yeah, I've had a hell of a path, man. It's been a blast.
Mm-hmm. A lot of diversity there.
I'm a very diverse person.
Yeah.
Multi-skilled.
But we cut Peter off at the break, and Peter was laying the fact out of the disproportionate ways in which, and I think that everything you're saying, Peter, is true. And this is a black man talking, and there's 100% truth into it. But my point is tonight is, what does it take to get the majority of America, which Nike just did a good job of doing that, or taking a step forward, or really hitting the door, kicking the door, knocking the door, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure if they kicked it in, of bringing the realization about what the protest is about. Once we get past all the various sideline BS, hijacking the means of it, let's talk about what the actual issue is.
Go ahead. I mean, I think that conversations like this are a big piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's Bugsy comes on public radio and says things that need to be said, so that all perspectives can be understood. I mean, empathy most definitely is a two-way street.
I got to
it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to me that whether the purpose behind the protest has been hijacked or misunderstood, or whether people just don't care about it. It's still frustrating to me that, the idea that, right away, my reaction to Cap's chosen form of protest was grandpa smacked the back of the head.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing?
It was really soon after that, though, within a couple of minutes, that I was like, if you're black in America, given our history, why should you necessarily respect the flag in that way? In other words, the flag's about ideals, and our country's fallen so far short of our ideals as far as how we treat black people. That, and I said this in the book I just finished writing, that basically it would almost be irrational for black people to feel the same way about America white people do, given the historical and, most importantly, ongoing treatment of black people.
Well, Pete, I was talking about. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Last week we talked about
to be, magnanimous. I mean, the level of forgiveness in the hearts of black people amazes me on a daily basis. So these conversations help, in my opinion.
Tell real quick pause right quick, and do you have any type of Twitter handle or anything? How can we promote your book at the Lonestar Sports Network? I get over 200,000 impressions a month, so something about whatever I say and do reaches some people. And I remember all the time that you worked on this book. I have tremendous amount of respect for you, Peter. Love Barksy obviously to death. You know, him and Anya are kind of like, you know, two more sons in some weird warped way. But
well, it's called Recovering Racist. It's on Amazon.
It's on
my
Amazon.
Twitter handle's Peter Sweathelm. My Twitter handle's Peter Sweathelm, which is brutal.
Okay.
Because my last name, spelling it is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I probably need to change it to something else, but that's on there as well.
Well,
I definitely appreciate the love on that front.
No,
but,
I know your heart was into it, and you worked. Give us the title of the book and Amazon again. Go ahead.
It's called Recovering Racist.
Recovering Racist. Okay.
It's not that much about me, but I was absolutely an overt racist when I was a little kid, and it's not like I was even raised in that kind of household. It just is sort of that we get bombarded with images, and it's the reason why some black people are racist against black people too, because y'all grew up in America. You absorbed the same images that we did.
Well,
I don't. And you talked earlier about basketball, and that's when I fell in love with hoops in '88. That started my path of unpacking my racism and very slowly but surely improving myself. The book's not called Recovered Racist; it's called Recovering Racist. I still think I am a racist.
No, I think everything. We
all just work against it.
Yeah, we all have some forms of perspectives that we have to manage. Of how we see others, how we see women. Sometimes how we see other races, or how we see tall people, short people.
On that.
Hey,
sexism is way worse than my racism.
Oh yeah, I can attest to that one, Pete. You better bribe me quick to keep my ass quiet, because I can bury you right now with a small shovel.
Once again, the views that are expressed on this show are not the views.
Oh no, nobody endorses this corporately or anything. This is
Right.
just two guys who've known each other too long.
Let
me ask you a question, Peter. Peter and Casey, I want to ask you a question. If you think there's any validity to this statement, I think the real beauty of what Nike did was they took what was only a political issue. If you ask the average 18-year-old kid about politics, they go glassy-eyed, they yawn, they don't give a damn. Most 30-year-olds don't care, right? And what I thought was really cool was that it was a political issue until Nike got involved. Now it's an economic issue, because once you start realizing that, okay, 10% of the people are pissed off that the stock went up 3.1%. Okay, 10% of the people are pissed off, but there's 45,000 people buying stock in there because they admire your protesting perspective. So what we did was we kind of it's like a social experiment in real time. We're watching politics and economics get woven together. And what I think is interesting was when it was just politics, Trump owned the NFL because he would always push everyone's button. But now it's going to be interesting to watch as it plays out with Nike, because now you're bringing advertising, you're bringing shoe sales in, and nobody in the world is more rebellious than a teenage kid. Lady Life, did we get the information about that hashtag cap stuff?
I'm with Cap.
Yeah, the hashtag I'm with Cap. They sold out the entire allotment. Everything they made for the hashtag I'm with Cap sold out. And they're going to make more next week. They're going to make more the next month. And you're going to find a lot of people gradually change over time. So I just think it's going to be interesting, because the whole issue got co-opted, and the narrative did. And it's just going to be interesting. This, in my perspective, kind of settles it back down.
That's a new word besides hijack. Now we co-op.
Yeah. Nike, because Nike's got the NFL and Trump by the cojones right now, for sure.
But this is one interesting thing. I'd love to hear what Peter has to say. And Barks is often, actually, I want both of y'all's. And y'all got about 4 minutes to get it done here before we go to break. And we're going to come back and do some Dallas Cowboy stuff. But when you look at this thing and really break it down, the NFL ran from it because they said it was unpatriotic, and the NFL was going to go bankrupt, and the owners couldn't risk their brands, and it was going to be end of the world. And then somebody just as big as the NFL, Nike, comes in and does this and proves all of that wrong. Yes or no? Whoever wants to take that first.
I mean, first of all, that point that you alluded to earlier, and again now, and T.I.'s point about bullying the bully, that like NFL's got an 8-year contract. That they ain't no running away from it now. You know,
Hey, you can't fire Nike.
and you know, yes, Nike has absolutely made the NFL look not only racist, but also gutless and also stupid.
Stupid was the
Because
word. Stupid was the top of the list. Right.
Being in favor of. It should have.
Yeah, I mean, how much support would the NFL gotten if the NFL would have stepped up the same way that Nike stepped up?
Right.
And they said they're going to lose all their viewership. Were they going to lose all their viewership?
Don't they realize
was that a lie?
And don't black people watch football on TV, by the way?
Because most of us play football.
That's my point. I mean, they're acting like if you piss off white people, the black people won't watch. No, they'll probably watch more because you piss the white people off. Come on, man, give me a break. Hey,
and I mean, it is worth noting though that we're kind of doing apples and oranges because if you go to a Houston Texans game, it's Trump land and there are not a lot of Nikes on feet.
That's a good point.
So, you know, and I'm not saying that all Trump voters are racist. It's just I think every single American is a racist, literally.
Yeah, you got to go read the book, Recovering Racist.
Hey, did you hear about the guy who runs the city manager in Kenner, Texas, or Kenner, Louisiana, that outlawed the purchase of Nike apparel for anyone who buying anything with city funds?
Wow!
And they were mocking him online because they were saying, "Oh wow, Nike versus Kenner, Louisiana. How will they survive?" Jesus Christ! Come on, man.
No, but did you see the New Orleans mayor's response to that?
No.
She came out and was like, "The only jobs in Kenner are at the airport, and New Orleans. The airport's technically located in Kenner.
Yeah, right.
But
I know.
City New Orleans owns it.
Right.
And she said, we're selling nothing but Nike at the airport.
There you go.
We're doing all Nike all the time.
And there you go.
So how is this thing going for Nike right about now, and how is this going for the home team?
Hey,
we're going to come back at the break, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, and we're going to talk about not so much about how about them Cowboys, but what about them Cowboys? Right here at the Lonestar Sports Show, we got Peter Sweatham with his new book, Recovering Races. Go over to Amazon and take a look for an opportunity to purchase and enlighten your mind and see the world that we live in and how we can go about, through the vehicle of sports, of making this a better place to live. We got Casey Barksdale on with us, too, that's going to come back and bring the Tennessee perspective on everything we do. Lady Life and Honey the Prince, keep us between the lines. And his new name, T.I., or Tick and Tom, or however you want to call
T.I.
it.
Come on, that's what I thought I was little.
We'll call him T.I. T.I. and Alan Branch right here, giving it to you like it is. All things sports, all things Texas. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show. at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. Giving it to you like it is. All things sports, all things Texas. What a great world it would be if we could bring more sports into the political and economic process of what's going on. Sports has a way of merging the process. You got a chance to witness about an hour, roughly 3 or 4 segments of having Peter Sweatham on recovering races. We had Casey Barksdale, former coach of St. Anthony's, now with the Barksdale Enterprises, where they've gone in and done some things with FedEx and here in the DFW area. He may be returning back to coaching real soon, too. That'll be a great announcement that we have kind of laying in the bushes of what's going on there. But right now we are coming up on that perfect time of the show on Tuesdays, where every Tuesday we come in and we give you Ticking Time Tom. That means Alan Branch gets a chance to stretch his legs, step away, and we just let Ticking Time Tom have roughly 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how good he's doing. It's kind of like the gong show. If he gets out of hand, we're going to hit the gong on him. We're going to cut him short, but we'll let him go. But I think he has got some really, really interesting angles here. I have a lot of admiration for Tom. I mean, he's my golf buddy. Now we're sitting here, we're doing this together. Who could have dreamed this up? This is going on. But, it's always interesting to see how he has things, and there's actually a lot of substance and content in the things he says. And a lot of times he says the things that everybody else thinks and doesn't have the balls to say. So we're going to let Ticking Time Tom go here for roughly 3 to 5 minutes and see what he has to say about what's on your mind, Ticking Tom, today. It's all yours.
All right, here's the deal. We're going to talk about the power of money and how it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. We talked earlier. I talked to you guys earlier about my thoughts about how Nike basically married up economics with politics. So now that you can't separate them, I think economics is going to beat politics because there's more people buying shoes than vote as far as the young people and everything. Okay, Don Ohlmeyer years and years ago was the guy who started broadcasting the Olympics, and he also was the guy who started broadcasting Monday Night Football. And he answered one time at a famous press conference. Somebody asked him a question to something. He said the answer, as always, to everything is money. Okay, well, this last weekend I was in Boston. I went to Gillette Stadium. Okay, Bob Kraft and Jerry Jones are both. You guys check me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that Jerry and Bob Kraft are the two biggest owners, even though they're minority owners of DraftKings. Okay, for years the NFL was absolutely against gambling at all costs. God, heaven forbid you talk about betting. We'd publish point spreads. Well, first of all, the NFL are hypocrites because for years they published an injury report. There's no injury report in baseball. There's no injury report in basketball. There's an injury report in football. Why? Because you got to give information to the gamblers. When fantasy football came along, all of a sudden Bob Kraft bought a piece and Jerry Jones bought a piece. I was at Gillette Stadium. They have a DraftKings bar. It's a DraftKings bar where you can sit and play live time fantasy football while you drink beer. And that, I mean, on one hand, I would say as a businessman, that's a great move. On the other hand, I would say if you have any concept of consistency and not being a hypocrite, it just makes me laugh. Because Adam Silver, who I really admire, I think he's a little weird, but I'm a little weird. And Adam Silver has taken the stigma away from gambling, because gambling for years and years and years was always a bad thing. And it goes back to the White Sox. There's a Black Sox scandal in 1919 where they sold out the White Sox. The White Sox sold out the Super Bowl. So there's always been this fear that gamblers are going to corrupt. A gambler can't corrupt a guy when the minimum salary in the NBA is $1 million. A guy can't corrupt. I mean, that's the reason they got Tim Donaghy. If any of you guys haven't read the book, by the way, called Personal Foul, it was Tim Donaghy's book that he wrote when he was in prison. He was the NBA ref. And I've always told people, if you want to fix a game, you don't fix it with the player. They make too much money. You fix it with the ref because they don't. And so anyway, I guess I'm sending a convoluted message because on one hand, I do admire the corporate idea that says, let's get off the sanctimonious attitude and let's just not worry about gambling. But on the other hand, I find it really interesting. And then the last thing I'll say is, at this rate, they'll probably be using Willie and Snoop's marijuana companies, and they'll be plastered that all over the boards next, because it's really funny. I read in the cover of Newsweek magazine, they showed a picture of Newsweek magazine, and it says, why the Republicans have fallen in love with weed. Right, you could never have gotten a Republican to admit that weed was a good thing, but when you showed them how much money was associated with weed, now suddenly maybe marijuana is a little more medical, and maybe it's not such a big deal, because at the end of the day, like Ohlmeyer says, the answer is money. Drop the mic. Alan, I've ranted enough. So listen, at this point, I think we're going to talk a little bit about Cowboys. So that should be the next thing coming up, and I'll start it with this. It might be a long year. I'm not trying to be a jerk because I'm a Bears fan, and we choked like dogs last night. I'm still pissed off about the 3rd and 1 call where we threw a pass, and the 4th and 1 we kicked a field goal to go up 6 points, knowing full well that Aaron Rodgers was going to kick our ass on the touchdown that he threw within 30 seconds, I was so pissed off. I kind of felt like Adam Gase kind of got caught like deer in the headlights, just a little bit maybe.
Right.
Because there was a 14-yard line. They gave them 11 yards just on the kickback. That was one free first down right there, and then they whiffed on the touchdown. So I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just I was letting you finish out with the Bears, but Cowboys. It seems that when they lose their first game, they actually have a fairly decent season.
Is that right? Statistically, that's been the case?
Well, probably not statistically. They just feel like every year I kind of just been watching the Cowboys.
Right.
Usually when they win that first game, they generally have like a 9-7 season, 8-8.
Well, what I always get a kick out of was like me and my buddies from Chicago. I talked to a couple guys I went to college with, and we're big Bears fans. There's no way I could ever be anything but. And we're all pissed off and disappointed, but we're still encouraged, and we still know that we're an average team looking to get better. And what I really think, I think the Cowboys are an average team looking to get better. I mean, let's be honest, they've been 8-8 3 of the last 4 years, I believe, something like that.
Yeah.
That's the definition of average. So I'm not ripping nobody. I'm just telling you that they're average. But the difference between Bears and Cowboy fans is you don't have to pry us off the ceiling the Monday after the first loss.
Right.
We were all pissed off. We wanted to beat Green Bay. But let's be honest with you, the two best players on the field played like the two best players on the field. Who were they? Khalil Mack and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Fact. Okay, well, Aaron Rodgers got the last shot, and that's why that guy, Adam Gase, should have gone for it on 4th and 1, because if he converts, it's over. They finish the game. And I felt bad for the Fuller kid, the kid that dropped the gimme interception.
Yeah.
But
I thought the Bears really played hard, and they really they didn't have a lot of expectations. They really come in.
Right. You couldn't be pissed off if somebody told you before the game you'd be leading the whole way and you play him to the wire. You just said, I'll take it. I'll take my chances. But nobody who's a Cowboy fan is probably saying an 8-point egg. I mean, the way I kind of analyze it is this: Zeke Elliott is a very good running back. I'll give him that. I think their line used to be awesome. You lost your center. Now you're pretty good. You're going to be 1 or 2 injuries away from yikes. I'm going to have to hire somebody who's working at FedEx. And the real problem, a buddy of mine brought this up. Barron Brown is my replacement coach at Grand Prairie. And Barron was saying really one of the bigger problems for everybody is this plain Jane ass offense that Scott Linehan runs. He doesn't even run people in motion. I mean, if you want to create, I went to New England this last weekend, and I don't really like Belichick, but I respect the hell out of him. Mm-hmm. And I watch how he manipulates things. Like when he puts my guy Rex in the slot and he runs him in motion so that he can draw a mismatch. He can get off a corner and he can get onto a safety and a linebacker because they can't guard him.
I think the Cowboys play calling is horrible.
Well, I think it's abysmal. So what's going to happen is, as you start realizing that Dak is an extremely inaccurate passer, that's a fair statement. You can't tell me because he doesn't put the ball in a tight radius.
Right.
So you're taking bad receivers with bad accuracy and an utterly predictable game plan. And what you're going to see press coverage on both corners. You're going to see someone playing home over the top, and you're going to play 8 in the box and say, F you, do something about it.
Right.
Because one of the greatest things that you can do in sports, especially football, is if you can self-scout. If your pass looks like a run and your run looks like a pass, that's tough to defend.
Right.
But if everyone in town knows that you're running,
team kind of reminds me with when Adrian Peterson is prime with the Vikings, how they just put 8 in the box, and
the most critical thing in football is which step the linebacker takes which way.
Right.
All right, if you're a linebacker, right, everyone on the line is going forward first. Every defensive back is going back first. Your role is downhill to the run, but you have to be careful because if you go downhill to the run, they pass, you're toast. If you play back and they run, well, that's easier to do. But at the end of the day, Dak's going to have to prove something to somebody, because if you compared his freshman and sophomore year, his sophomore year, I think, was probably a little more disappointing maybe than his rookie year was impressive. Maybe the impressive a little more in the first year.
Yeah, I think it was more impressive than his sophomore year was disappointing.
He dropped off a little, right? Not a lot, but a little.
Yeah.
But at this rate, I mean, because now he's found out.
Right.
Everyone's been found out. I vividly remember saying to you one day that there was 31 defensive coordinators. These are highly paid millionaires who got embarrassed by some kid they didn't really see coming. Well, guess what? I got all summer to figure out what the hell makes you tick. And I'm not going to let this happen again. This won't happen. I watched Deshaun Watson, same thing. The Texans are keeping him in the pocket now. They're forcing him to mistakes. They don't want him to run out and get hurt. Okay, well, now they're making the game plan utterly predictable, and you got this guy in here with skinny legs at 210 pounds about to get his ass kicked. So I think the play calling kills the Cowboys. I think Linehan's stealing money, frankly.
Man, we roll off in here something we got on. I didn't get a chance to hammer Nathan Peterman for having a job in the NFL, and you know what you did? You hijacked the run sheet.
Show over, I know.
You hijacked the run sheet.
I was done with my rant.
We planned it.
It was. It's a coup d'etat.
Is that the way I get a chance to get a vacation around this
Well, hold
camp?
on a second. I went with the rant, and I didn't want to go too vulgar and too crazy, so I cut it off. So you were doing something, so me and Honey had to save you.
I went and checked with my wife. My wife was at the Jay-Z Beyonce concert tonight, so I went to see if make sure she was. The card picked them up, and they were having a good time.
Anybody who plays behind a quarterback who started a game and had a .7 quarterback ranking should be so livid he can't stand it. And if you need any proof that Colin Kaepernick should have a job it's right there.
Right there.
Because he's not a starter at this point in his life, but he's got to be one of the top 100 quarterbacks in the league. Like, here's a good example. Chase Daniel. You remember him? Say Chase Daniel from South Lake Carroll?
Yeah.
Yep.
Played at Missouri. He's making $7 million a year as a backup quarterback.
Right.
Because he's seen as a good team guy and a good teammate and everything, right? And he is a good quarterback backup. He's not a good starter.
Well, even when you look at the depth chart, do you realize that they only have 2 quarterbacks, according to the internet, we'll say?
Who does now? The Cowboys?
The Buffalo Bills.
Oh, the Bills. So it's him and Ty.
No, they have the
Him and Josh Allen. Josh Allen.
Yeah, the rookie over there.
And I kind of get the point about not starting a rookie, even though did you guys see what Sam Darnold did last night?
You only have two quarterbacks, period.
Right.
And one of them is not even fit to be called a quarterback.
Oh, that's my point. So you're starting that just because you're saying I don't want to start a rookie. How much worse could a rookie be than that shit? Are you kidding me?
You look at guys like Blaine Gabbert, Kellen Moore, Geno Smith. They're still in the league.
No, I mean
Geno Smith's horrible.
Yeah, I mean
he's horrible.
You go all the way across the deal, and what
Colt McCoy's still in the league, right?
He may be.
Not sure.
Why don't you check and see that on if you can?
Yeah, I can.
But the whole point comes down to it, and you look at the merit that some of these guys have to stay in the league, and then you look at it. Reminds me of one of my friends, Bruce Davis.
Yeah, he's in the league.
Yeah, he's in the league. Okay. And Colt McCoy is what they're referring to. And it reminds me of some of what one of my high school teammates told me when he got to the Cincinnati Bengals. He said, man, you won't believe, man, this stuff is just a whole lot better than how good you are. There are some positions and some roster spots that are reserved for guys that can't play dead.
Right.
Just to allow them to continuously make this amount of money and the favors that are done. But then you turn back around and you take a guy like Colin Kaepernick. Is he going to have any problem proving collusion? I think when you look at
I think you'll find a paper trail.
You go right here. The judge goes, case dismissed. Y'all did it. Pay him.
Depends who gives. Don't get me going on how cynical I am about the judicial system. No, that makes me look like I'm an optimist about politics.
We've attacked the executive department. We attacked the judicial system and the legislative. We let the legislative boys go today, didn't we?
Oh, we can get on their ass. I'm not done yet. I got some raw left.
We're going to go to a break right here now on the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. Tom Emman, Alan Branch, Lady Life, and the Prince, Aniu Money, giving it to you like it is. All things sports, all things Texas, right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Today's show is brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. This particular segment was brought to you by Hardham Hotels. Go take a look at HardhamHotels.com and see how you can put your money where you sleep. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show. Hey, here we are back here at the Lonestar Sports Show. My main man Tom Emmett over here clowning around, trying to see what else interesting he can do with his headset there. I guess doing it all in. I want to take a quick moment to congratulate Jimmy Butler for being inducted into the Hall of Fame there at Tyler Junior College, where he received the key to the city. And I already thanked him on social media. A lot of people don't realize the real jump start of my career is gaining some level of credit or bringing exposure to Jimmy Butler, and the whole story perpetuates on because he was pretty much an unranked and unrecruited player.
Kind of came out of nowhere, yeah.
This time it came out of nowhere, and I was pretty much the vehicle that somewhat facilitated that. And his talent and his ability and all his success did it, but I was the guy that pointed and said, here's one that y'all missed.
Well, you took a risk most people wouldn't take because most people.
I trusted my eyes, as Snoop Johnson likes to say.
Well, one of the reasons that I really respect your opinion of players, and Mike Kunstad also, is you guys don't just measure the measurables. You know, and if I go to work with my guy who works for the Nets, I talked to one day I might get an NBA scouting job, and that's one of our commitments we're going to make is any idiot can measure the measurables.
Yeah,
but we need to talk about character. We need to talk about how you treat people. We need to talk about work ethic,
well, I mean,
motor,
there's a
things
whole
like
lot
that.
of things. I mean, it's like Rob Evans told me roughly 12, 13 years ago, Alan, if you can only see the obvious, then you'll be just like the rest of the clowns running around with a pen and a pad.
Yeah, everyone with a tape measure knows that Mo Bamba's got a 7'5" wingspan, for instance.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
so what? So you going to tell me what I know?
Yeah, and so I mean that was the whole thing about it. But I just like to thank him publicly for being a part of that. And I mean, you got Jonathan Simmons and your Eric Morelands, and it goes a long list of many other successful guys that have been around. Maybe point out that didn't get off to the the inaugural start of being announced a pro when they were 12 years old.
Yeah,
and had a great career. So thanks a lot, Jimmy, man, and congratulations. Hope you had a lot of fun down there with all your old teammates and stuff. And I think y'all had a big outing. Everything sounded good.
I promise you, Mitch had fun.
Mike Moss, huh?
Mitch had fun. I bet.
Yeah. He probably got Mitch to smile this past weekend.
That's hard to do. He, by the way, Mitch is born a middle-aged man.
Yeah.
He's already his dad. You tell him I said that too. Okay. I love his old man. Mike Marquis is the greatest guy I know, man. I love him.
But that's the whole deal. But back to this whole football thing, you're looking at the Cowboys. I don't know how far y'all went on that. I finally got probably one of my first breaks in 20-some months of the Lone Star Sports Show is that we got a chance to I stepped away and taking time, Tom. I think you did an excellent job, man, of rolling things along there. You got never a shortage of legitimate substance and content there and giving our people. But y'all did jumped the gun and y'all kidnapped the run sheet and jumped over here and went down and got all the way into the football. And it's not how about them Cowboys, but it's what about them Cowboys is where it is right now. And when you break it down, is it time to panic? Panic is a word. It's time to be extremely concerned. The faster, you were a basketball coach. The faster you could identify a problem and prepare to evaluate an adjustment, the better coach you were.
Absolutely, but also one of the most important things to do is to not panic, and that's why I was talking off the air about the difference between Chicago fans and Dallas fans. We're very disappointed we lost that game, but the Dallas fans tend to overreact, and as a coach, you need to make sure we tell them, hey, listen, man, 0-1 is one game, man. We got 15 games left. Let's go 1 week at a time. Let's go 1-0 this week. But you have to show that resilience.
When you break down Dallas Cowboys, it was a 16-8 ball game. Is that correct?
And it wasn't that close.
Huh?
It didn't feel that close.
Well, we're talking about what the scoreboard said. The Cowboys didn't play that well, right?
Right.
But that also attributes to the Dallas Cowboy defense,
right? That
didn't get nearly as much credit as they probably should have gotten
there
this
in the
past
field an
weekend.
awful long time.
Yeah,
spent a lot of time in the field.
Yeah, and they were able to manage whatever you want to say. They held them to 16 points. That was what took place. But the thing is that you tell me Dak missed on 7 fundamental passes that he wasn't necessarily highly pressured on. And then you turn around and you take, to me, one of the best top 5 running backs. I know nobody will argue with me. Arguably one of the top 5 running backs.
No argument.
In the NFL.
Right.
And he only gets 15 carries, where last year he averaged roughly 27 carries. So you don't give him the ball. And so now you're putting a young quarterback, and I heard you talking about the sophomore blues sophomore blues are always worse than the freshman sensation.
Right. You always remember because it's more recent.
Yeah, and it's more recent. That's what we have a habit of human beings of remembering the last thing that was done. So when you break all that down and look at all of that, the Cowboys obviously had this huge dominant front line, offensive line that has sustained 2 injuries. So you're down 2 out of 5 of your best players, which gave both Dak and Zeke a chance. So now you're kind of a little bit more normal, and I'm talking from football terms. So now your choices and your decision and your playmaking has to have a lot more symmetry to it, other than just being like your guy, Newt Rockney, or one of them guys that y'all had back up there, George Hallis or something.
Yeah.
Right, when he had Gale Sayles, he lined his guys up and said, "Here we come."
Pitch sweep, here it comes. Jet sweep.
Yeah, right. You can't do that when you're more normal. So the lack of offensive coordinating, planning, or the coach, the head coach that we have at the Dallas Cowboys, everybody knows who he is, a Princeton guy.
Head robot.
Yeah, right. There you go. You know what I'm talking about. Being there, and without him having enough feel and understanding to say that, okay, I got this quarterback that's coming up and coming along. Obviously, you're not going to slow the rush down, and you're not going to increase the amount of time that he has to make more accurate passes in his infinite development stages as going into year 3, coming off a really bad year last year. And because you saw how he performed without Zeke, with all the suspensions and everything went on, all the imbalance, and they still won the games and were almost numerically in the playoffs last year. So how could you possibly come back and only run Ezekiel Elliott 14, 15 times?
Well, I'll never excuse anything, because I think that it's the most plain Jane vanilla offense in the world. And I'm not trying to be personal to Scott Linehan, but I think he's just about the second biggest robot on that staff next to Jason Garrett. But, a buddy of mine pointed something out to me I never really thought about. If you're a run-dominant team, the worst offensive line injury you can sustain is not the left tackle, it's the center. Because your most important thing is you're centering your 2 guards, because you need that's the vortex of power.
Right.
That's how you control the point.
Yeah. And then it goes to the left tackle.
Right. The left tackle is important when you throw because the
blind side. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's the problem: because they're trying to be a run dominant team, they're going to blow people up the middle. Like a guy like Khalil Mack will come up the middle and give.
Well, thank God we weren't playing against Khalil Mack.
No, I understand that, but my point is only this: that you almost have to concede between tackle to tackle now, because you probably can't block it. So now you almost have to exclusively run wide. And that's, I've watched guys that'll run 25 yards to gain 2. You don't talk about that. They're running vertically.
Right. They're running horizontally.
Doesn't do you any good, right?
Right.
So I don't know that.
It does you 2 yards worth of good.
I'm not so sure that, exactly. But that doesn't get you anywhere when you go 3 times 2 is 6 and you pump.
No, it doesn't work very good. You need the 3 yards in the cloud of dust.
Well, the other thing, too, where I really think I would love to be an offensive coordinator in football, because I like the chess game of like just bluffing people. It's like playing poker. Because if I line up and you see pass and I run, you're going to struggle. If you line up and you see run and I pass, you're going to struggle. But if
that's
you know everything I'm doing every day, it's just not that damn hard.
Well, and how do you not? The only way to everybody knows. I mean, my mother knows. At 91 years old, just from watching a little football she's watched, the way that you slow down the rush is that you attack it with a run.
Right. Yeah.
So they got to respect it.
Yep,
They got to stay at home.
Yep.
And sometimes you just need that instance of a fraction of a second of that respect to make a decision. Is it a read? When those guys start laying their ears back, and you're not running the one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL a large amount of times, or a respectable amount of times, which would be somewhere in the 24, 25 carry range.
Right.
And you're doing that, you put more pressure on that press spot. You put more pressure on this offensive line that's already battling injuries and not the same line that it has been for the past 2 years. You put them in a situation where they basically, on their play calling and their lack of balance, they were set up to fail.
Well,
that's my take right there.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because one thing I've always said is that the Cowboys are too quick to abandon the run. Like, I know sometimes they'll run it 6-7 times, get nothing, and bail out on it. Let me draw a comparison. I'm not trying to put Burkhead in anywhere near Zeke Elliott's class, but he ran for about 65 yards the other day, and it was really tough tackle yards. And you remember you got Jadeveon Clowney on one end, and you got J.J. Watt on the other. Mm-hmm. And the reason they had to kind of throw him to the wolves and let him get the living crap beat out of him was because if you can get them to pinch down, we can isolate wide and throw wide. And of course, you got an accurate quarterback in Brady, where we have an inaccurate quarterback. Mm-hmm. So where they were willing to sacrifice literally Rex's body and sacrifice a few plays to make their first move in, not up and around.
Right. And that was one of the things. I mean, that's what the Cowboys. The Cowboys have something to be concerned about. You got to get healthy on your offensive line. I don't know the full status of Jonathan and how that whole process is going right now and what you lost there. Obviously, you don't have the tight end that you once had. Your receiving core is not what it is. So how can you take a weapon like Ezekiel Elliott and only use it 2/3 of the amount of time that you normally use it?
It's a fascinating.
Probably more like closer to 60%.
Yeah, and I was going to say 50 to 60.
50,
yeah,
right.
Well, one fascinating question, I just thought of it in my mind right now, was I would love to do an anonymous survey of every single coach in the league. If you're like a head coaching candidate, I want you to answer as a head coach. And if you're an assistant coach, I want you to answer as a position coach or a coordinator. Mm-hmm. Where does Dallas rank on the 32 teams of you wanting to work there? Because, like, for instance, some guys don't want to work in New England. They find it kind of an oppressive work environment, right? That type of thing.
Well, I mean, it's either you love Jerry or hate him.
Well, that's my point. But what I would think would be interesting is if you could get the information, because all the people who've left Jerry and left the dysfunction of that organization would be able to tell you whether you do or don't want to be there. So what I'm saying is maybe by virtue of the reputation of the management, maybe he doesn't get a chance to take the best candidates. Because the best candidate is Norv Turner. He's the best coordinator in the league.
Yeah, I mean, Norv has been known, and he once was a Dallas Cowboy guy and was very successful when he was there.
But I just wonder if they think there's any autonomy. Because my suspicion is, as a coach, you feel like you got your hands tied. I would suspect that.
Well, no, that's BS right there, Tom.
Okay, you call it on, that's fine.
Jerry is one thing, but Jerry, he's not that kind of a guy. I could talk about some other guys in college.
But if he knows so much about football, why does he fire these half-assed coordinators he's got?
Well, that's for another different reason. But the whole situation comes down. I don't know if I want to put it all on the coordinator or whatever.
I do. I want to put it all in the hand.
But where we are right now is that it's not time to panic. It's time to be concerned. And you got to look in the mirror and make some better choices and decisions.
Yeah, I agree.
So we get ready to go into week 2. What's going on? Great week. Catch us back on Basketball Thursday.
Where do the boys play next week? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but where do the Cowboys play? Is it Sunday night here against? It's Sunday night here at AT&T Stadium. I
think it is. Somewhere we're going away from the show.
Is it Carolina?
They will play. They do come back home. Yeah. No, they just got done with them.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. No, but that's the whole deal. They come back. I mean, it doesn't even matter who they play. I already looked at their first 4 games.
Their opponents themselves. They don't need to worry about themselves.
The question I'm talking about is that we need to worry about ourselves. Dallas Cowboys. The Giants come right here to Dallas, so we'll be ready to look at that and see what's going on. It doesn't make any difference if you don't do what you need to do with your own stuff. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
We've got the Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. We are checking out. Today's show was brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. Tom Emmon, my main man, myself, Alan Branch, and you have Lady Life over there manning the whole process. Under your money, the Prince has already gone to the gym to go watch some Fall League basketball tonight. We'll catch you on Basketball Thursday and have some very interesting things that we're going to talk about there on and off the court while we're mixing up politics and overall development and where we are as a country.
That was fun, man. It was a fun show.
All right. We'll see y'all back. Y'all be several. Tomorrow's hump day. Go get it done. Make it all make sense. Talk back to you.